Let's talk about window bonding a little bit, Rich. This is another purpose. Now, in most cases, this is done in the factory by the boat builders, but I know that people have replacement windows to put in.
Yeah.
I think it's quite important to probably mention. I mean, we have this product 760 XL HT, which we'll talk about in a second. But one of the questions we get in the office quite a bit is when do I need to use this? So quite a lot of windows are actually you bond them in with the product, and then you got bolts around the outside because they come in a frame, like a hatch or something like that. Do you need to use this product in that case?
No. So where mechanical fixings are holding the window in, you can use something like 720 is acceptable, but you can also use 750. That's not a problem. 760 XL HT is only required really where you've got it, where it is the whole bond. There isn't anything else holding the window in. So yeah, it's more of a specific application.
Okay. And I believe that the marine world of window bonding is actually in some ways the poor relative. What other industries does SABA do?
So they operate in various different industries, but in the transportation world, they will use 760 for bonding in various different windows for cars, buses, but more probably the best example is bullet trains, high-speed trains. It works perfectly for that sort of application, and I think it's fair to say that if it's suitable for that, then it's you won't have any problems on a boat.
That sounds like young Master Rawson giving you some trouble in the background there.
No, it isn't. I'm afraid it's someone next door.
Well, the perils of working from home. Okay, so we did some window bonding. Here's a boat that it's a small sports fishing boat that had some windows bonding in. What are the things that we needed to well, first of all, what sort of materials do we make windows do we bond in? What sort of different types of materials do we get?
So window material wise, usually glass or plastics. The glass is glass. Plastics can be various different compositions. And again, we go back to this idea that it is worth just checking that the adhesive's compatible. It almost always is, but if you can run a little trial, it helps. And then you've obviously got various substrates that you're bonding the windows into. So yeah, GRP, timber, aluminium and plastics. So
yeah, well, actually in this particular instance that we've got up here, this was one that myself and another one of our colleagues, Dave, did. We actually got a mixture of virtually everything because the window's glass. There's a bit of polycarbonate in the hatch we're just about to bond on. But as you can see here, we've masked around where the window rebate is, and we're applying in the middle photo there. You can see the 760 going on. It does come again in cartridges. Again, as Richard mentioned, you'd probably need a half decent cartridge gun because this product's like the 780 is pretty thick, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So either a very, very good cartridge gun would do the job. You don't necessarily need to use something that's powered, but it does help.
So we got the powered kit here because they did quite a lot of it, which is great. So the first job we're doing here is we're bonding down actually a sliding opening window, which is an aluminium frame, and I think it's got acrylic windows on the inside of it. So here you can see we've bonded that down using the 760. We kept the masking on to make it easy to clean up. We just used some simple clamps to hold it in place. We did this early on during the day. We did this first. We then went over to the boat to bond the rest, some of the other windows in and prep those areas. But we still bonded the window in the whole day. Again, if I go back here slightly, you can see in the middle photo there that there's the V-groove coming out of the nozzle, which allows us just to put a nice V-shaped bonding line down. And in most instances, we actually managed to get the windows to fit without any clamps. There was quite a lot of curvature on this particular boat, actually, so we did need a couple of props on the big windows, but the small windows, which is just in the bottom of that image there that we're bonding in that case, were fine. was a good little job. Any questions about fender bonding or window bonding coming to us, Chris?
Yeah, there's a couple. So the first one, has Saba stopped making 750 primer, which I know if you find a lot of the older literature online is mentioned, and what primer has replaced it?
Yeah, so a 760 primer was available for a number of years, and the term primer is slightly misleading. It was mainly just a blackout paint, so you could use it to paint the black UV block around the outside of a window. The reason that it was removed is actually down to how many hazardous chemicals there were in the product itself. But you actually find these days that there aren't so many uses for it, because window manufacturers tend to put their own fret around the outside of a window, and it's really there not so much to keep sunlight out, as in the UV rays. It's more to do with protecting against heat. But in terms of a primer, you don't need. I mean, the bond is primerless to glass and most plastics. So a primer isn't really required, but there are different solutions, vinyls and that kind of thing, that you can apply to the outside of a window, which will do the same job. And yeah, it was a good product, but wasn't necessary in some respects. And yeah, the nastiness doesn't really fit with the way that Saba are trying to take their products. So.
Cool. Okay. And another question has come in that I get asked a bit out and about. Should you abrade the Perspex or glass before bonding, and if so, to what grade?
The simple answer is no. I appreciate when I say this, it's uncommon to suggest that you shouldn't sand something before you try and bond to it, but you'll notice from the video and from the pictures that the adhesive is very thick, and what you're trying to do is maximize the bond surface, which again you would find with sanding usually, but in this case the adhesive's so thick it won't go to the bottom of what a sand scratch would create. So the most important thing is to make sure that it's clean and dry, and very occasionally with some plastics you might require a primer, but the overwhelming majority of the time, no, just make sure it's clean and smooth and that sort of thing.
Perfect. And lastly, on the 760 XL HT, what's the HT about?
Yeah, sorry, missed that bit out at the beginning. So the XL is the extended life, the same as the 750 XL. The HT refers to high tack. But high tack, high grab, that initial kind of, it holds. We did some work with a company up in North Wales who were bonding windows into commercial vessels, and they were very impressed with the way that you could put a window in and it would hold itself in place without any battens or tape or extra supports, because it can all get quite messy trying to have something holding a window in place without sticking to excess adhesive and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the HT was added a little while ago, just to remind people of how high grab it is really. No, that's the idea.
I've got one more question actually, Richard. At the beginning of this, we were saying how wonderful Saba is with UV resistance and doesn't change color and things. So why do we need to cover the window bonding joint?
It's mainly down to heat. So if obviously people are very familiar in the UK with greenhouses, so the heat that's generated from sunlight on the inside of a glass window is what could potentially affect the bond. It potentially weaken the adhesive, and that's why we have this UV blocking barrier. So it isn't so much that it would become unstable in normal sunlight. I mean, if you find that sometimes people will backfill around the edge of a window to give a really smooth edge, like you might see on your car, that is perfectly UV stable. It's on the outside. It doesn't have the glass between it and the sunlight. So it's really just to protect from the heat. That's the reason for that black barrier that you'll see on car windows, bus windows. Yeah.
Okay, didn't know that. That's cool. Thank you for that, Rich. Let's move on.